So Superman, after relatively just arriving on Earth, is now having to fight against an entire Earth army because something known as the Lazarus Corporation on this planet, on this absolute universe, want him beaten and captured, as this very powerful and resourceful corporation is seemingly controlled by a version of Brainiac himself. But not only that, and to top it all off, he is currently now handcuffed to one very special individual, this absolute version of Lois Lane, who is working for the enemy. No, she isn't some sort of reporter or writer, but she is a military soldier, one who is crossing paths with Superman on different sides. They are enemies. And so you might be thinking, okay, well, this is Superman. Surely just any old Earth army shouldn't be a huge threat to him, but they are. You see, this Superman is different. He isn't as powerful as we are used to seeing him. You know, maybe that can be summed up to him not having enough time on Earth to fully absorb sunlight, or maybe in this absolute universe, his whole Kryptonian physiology just is a little different, or maybe it's something with the high-tech nanotech suit he is wearing. Either way, we know that this army here does pose a pretty big threat to Superman, and their weapons do hurt him. Now, they aren't like bullets to a normal human where they're deadly, but if he takes enough damage, it might be able to incapacitate Superman. And as Superman stares down this giant army, we see the entire battle start to break out. And something very interesting about this version of Superman, his suit is sentient, meaning it can help and fight for him, as we see it unravel and form a shield around him. Yes, it's his cape. So in his base suit so far, at least, he doesn't use his cape like normal Superman would. But here, when he goes into battle mode, he uses it as some sort of high-tech shield, shielding not only him, but Lois Lane from the direct fire of the Lazarus Corporation. And as Superman is trying to figure out what his next move should be, as he can't really just escape with this strange mysterious woman hooked onto his wrist, he instead now just decides to get away from all of this battle. So instead he makes a tactical retreat, telling his suit to shield her as he leaps up hundreds of feet into the air getting away. And it's interesting that he leaps and doesn't fly, because for now it seems like this Superman has more of his golden age abilities, you know, faster than a speeding bullet, more powerful than a locomotive, able to leap tall buildings in a single bound, more of that sort of thing, instead of flying at light speed or whatever Superman is currently doing. All while, of course, Lois Lane is screaming for her life, being dragged off into this crazy mess. And it gets even crazier as their tanks start to shoot him down from mid-air, hitting him dead on and crashing him into a nearest village. But even through it all, Superman being the good-hearted individual that he is, he makes sure there is no casualties if he can prevent it, saving Lois Lane throughout it all. And even though Superman so far has been her savior, she doesn't see it like this, and she is a trained soldier, as soon as she gets the chance, she attacks and hurts him, while trying to call into the rest of her squad to get him locked up. But as we will see throughout this entire story, Lois doesn't stay like this. She doesn't stay as some cold-blooded soldier just following orders, not even thinking about who she is hurting and what she's doing. We see the seeds planted as she slowly starts to change, with of course her first being checked here by Superman, as they get into a little bit of an argument, with Lois Lane thinking his escape and running is endangering not only himself but other people from Lazarus who just wants to help him, quote unquote. But Superman sees this a different way, because he not only calls Lois arrogant in how she is angry at anyone who she doesn't think is as smart as her, which is usually everyone who opens their mouth in their vicinity, and how she is everything that's wrong with this planet, with her planet, her people, humanity. And of course with Lois immediately being thrown off by him saying her planet, with no one knowing Superman is really an alien from millions of light years away across the galaxy, we see their conversation is interrupted as they are still in the middle of an active warfare and fighting for their very lives and survival, as more explosions and flying tanks in the sky rain down fire. And Superman, of course, jumping into action, he starts to defend this people of this little town, this little village, picking up a car and throwing it at the helicopter, telling everybody to get to safety. And this next part and next few interactions are really interesting because we see it from Lois's perspective, as we see her and Superman still tied together, make it through this little town trying to save and protect who they can. She eventually starts to see the horrors that the Lazarus Corporation, the corporation she works for, and thought they were the good guys doing the good work. She starts to see them for what they really are, villains, evil people, with no regard for the innocent people and just trampling and doing what they want. Because as the comic goes on to say, while Lois is writing a report, we see her say that she first thought it had to be the suit, that surely this Superman is what he's being called. It's just a normal man with some high level technology. And sure, the suit is pretty powerful and does display some level of sentience. After her direct observation, she can profoundly say that it isn't just a suit. This Superman is plenty super on his own. With of course this full extent of his powers being uncharted, she makes note that even Superman himself doesn't fully understand the limits of his own abilities. And that all of this, you know, his heroic work and wandering, saving what he can, is all still relatively new to him as well. And how in some ways Superman is still very much still a boy, one who hasn't fully yet deciphered who he is and who he wants to be. And with this we see an awesome spreadsheet panel which in my opinion represents what Superman stands for. As you see, he was able to save everyone, even at the cost of himself, stripped down and laid bare, giving everything he had to make sure these other people were safe and unharmed. With Lois even going on to further say, in other ways he is every bit a man with certain ethos that seem unshakable, and how he seems like a man who just cannot help but be earnest, who could never lie even if he wanted to. And they know from other sightings that Superman has traveled the globe, he speaks multiple languages, but yet still, she thinks he still has the air of a lost child, a son without a home. As we see Superman using his extended power set, such as his freeze breath and his laser eyes, finishing up defeating the rest of the forces there, and finally collecting his cape back. Because interestingly enough, the nanotech, or whatever his suit is made out of, even has healing properties, able to heal the damaged civilians that he saved. And after everything was all said and done, we see Superman even go on to thank Lois. And of course, with her not really being sure why he is thanking her, because really he did all the work in saving, Clark goes on to further explain, there are more stars in the night sky than you can possibly imagine, and so many of those stars are orbited by nothing but chunks of rock. Do you people have any idea how precious a place like this is, how precious Earth is? Because of course, Earth being somewhat of a Goldilocks situation, perfect for the way humanity is living on it and how they came up, and especially unlike Clark on his own doomed planet, who of course, knowing the story of Krypton, eventually blew up, making Clark one of the sole survivors. And because of this, he starts to open up to Lois, starting to talk about how he is a child of one of those sons of nothing. But before he can fully unravel, fully lay out more information and open up, suddenly the handcuffs unclick. The sentient suit finally disabled them, freeing Superman and Lois from being connected together. And of course, with Superman being free now, he immediately rockets off, getting as far away from the situation and people as he can. But the impact Superman has left not only on Lois herself, but the people in this village is already set in stone, forever changing and altering their trajectory. And later on, we see Lois talking to Brainiac, the brains behind the entire Lazarus Corporation. And funny enough, every time Lois tries to explain the situation, how good of a man Clark was being and actually being a hero and not the destructive, wayward person that Lazarus thinks he is, Brainiac keeps twisting her words, making him seem way more dangerous and unhinged than he really is. Because as it goes on to ask Lois, how grave of a danger would you rank Superman on a scale of 1 to 10? And of course, with Lois seeing firsthand how Superman was saving people, she says, well, I wouldn't rank him as a danger at all. He's incredibly powerful, yes, and still kind of raw in some of those ways, but I don't think he's looking for a fight. He doesn't strike me as someone who... Instead, Brainiac associates Superman with a level 8 ranking of danger. And with Brainiac continuing on asking, do you feel like the threat that Superman poses warrants neutralization, or can Superman be controlled? Well, no, he can't be controlled. Brainiac takes this as he needs to be terminated, which of course frustrates Lois to no end. Her words are being twisted and making Superman seem like a straight up monster, a villain, more than the hero he really is. And this frustrates her so much that she decides she needs to do the report herself. And apparently in this universe, in this situation, this Lois straight up hates doing reports, writing, which is ironic how in the main DC continuity she is a reporter herself who specializes in journalism and writing. Instead here, she feels so strongly that she needs to write her version of events down in a concise way that can't be twisted into something else. She gets to typing up her adventures with Superman, if you will. But moving over back in time and light years away, we pick up on Krypton in the past, which so far this series is kind of ping-ponging between Krypton in the past and Earth in the future with Superman, slowly bridging the gap between what happened on Krypton that led to its obvious destruction and how Superman arrived on Earth doing what he is now. But here we see an interesting revelation, how his suit, that very special, advanced, sentient powered suit, the stuff that it was made out of, was conjured up, created, and given to him by none other than his parents. How originally its purpose was supposed to be an exploratory spacesuit and rocket ship all in one. Super high-tech technology. But of course, with technology this revolutionary, you would say, okay, well, how come Krypton didn't do more to survive? Well, here in this universe, of course, Superman's parents, instead of being in a higher echelon of the Scientist League of Krypton, they were just lowly farmers. And assumingly, they weren't able to convince the rest of Krypton to use this technology, that the planet itself is in danger. So instead, they gave it to their one beloved son, who of course in the present day, we see him with this technology as we cut back to Earth as Superman is wandering once more, heading towards Venezuela, wandering the Earth once more to see who he can help and what his purpose truly is. But little does he know, him, Lois, the entire Lazarus Corporation are all going to be interconnected more than he can ever think. As when we cut back to the village and town they were at before, where Superman saved all of those people, we see that the peacemakers, the enforcers of the Lazarus Corporation, finally arrive and trying to clean up from the giant battle and mess. And here we see things take a, well, pretty dark and disturbing turn, because we see one of the peacemakers, one who they call Smith, which interestingly enough, the main peacemaker in the normal DC universe, last name is Smith. So maybe this could be a nod that that's him, but we see Smith here having some doubts about this entire thing, and how Superman, all he did was look at him, and boom, his entire squad was downed. And of course, with the rest of the peacemakers' egos being crushed and flattened from easily being defeated, they go to take their rage out on innocent people. As they go on to say, I bet you every single one of these people know where Superman is hiding. They don't get it. They don't appreciate everything we've done to pull them out of the mud. So we have to teach them. Teach them that peace has a price. As they literally go to mow down and murder civilians. Innocent people who are just trying to live their lives. And you can bet once Superman or even Lois gets word of these injustices going on within the Lazarus Corporation, they may even even have to team up once more to take down this entire worldly operation from the inside out. But that is something we won't see here and in the next one, as this issue and video comes to a close. If you have enjoyed, leave a like or subscribe if you're new and enjoy this type of content. As always, this was the Hero Informer, and thank you for watching.